1991. That film, Thelma Louise, is absolutely groundbreaking, but at the time, it was deemed controversial, which is kind of crazy, because before that was Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, which wasn't nearly as crucified as Thelma Louise. Are you guys surprised that the audience is now or finding it, rediscovering it, and has such an iconic status?
Well, you know, when we were making the movie, we had no idea that it was going to strike a nerve the way it did. No clue what would happen. And I don't know if anybody's old enough to remember when it came out, but it really exploded, and both positive and then bizarrely some negative things like that. You know,
was condoning suicide.
Right, and also the world is ruined now the women have guns. So it was really what is going on? But it certainly has survived, you know, all this time.
I mean, when we did it originally, it's so rare at that time, especially to be able to have a co-star that's another woman, and a co-star that is a woman, and you don't hate her automatically because she's another woman. And so, yeah, and so it seemed like a cowboy movie with women and trucks instead of guys and horses. And so even then, the allusion to rape was barely mentioned. That nobody was really tuning into that. And so it was pretty shocking when people got so upset. Well, I should say mostly men got so upset. Mostly men with a lot of gold jewelry, I think, really got upset. And now it has turned into like a significant buddy film, and has become much more feminist than we expected. And I think that some of that is just that we had such a good time because it was us and a bunch of guys in trucks and cars and my little kids. And so luckily we did fall in love in terms of, you know, when someone shows up on a set and they're prepared and also they're really good at their job, and Geena is so funny and so good at improvising and so strong, and so you're just so grateful to have somebody like that to play off of and to make it a special thing. So even though we were in the middle of all these shirtless guys who were, you know, smoking cigars and carrying on, we had a great summer, and that's really was my intention initially, is to go to this great location in Utah and just hang with my family, and then it, lo and behold, turned into this whole thing.
Absolutely incredible. Now, prior to making this movie, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys didn't know each other. When did you guys know that you had that instant chemistry on set that we see on the screen?
Instantly.
Instantly.
Yeah. That's incredible.
The second I met him, I was like, wow. Yeah, I was bowled over immediately. Yeah.
Now, Ridley Scott, I wouldn't say is known as being a feminist, and he wasn't the first director, he wasn't the first choice as director in this movie, if I'm not mistaken. He wasn't going to direct this movie at all, but ended up directing the film. What did Ridley Scott's directing style add to Thelma Louise?
He put it in an incredibly heroic vista. You know, it was where other iconic westerns had been shot, and though the women part of it wasn't first and foremost for him, he tends to make choices in a very visual sense. He was incredibly collaborative with us, and you know, we took care of that part, and he took care of the other part, and he made it into a big story where the script was a little story. Wouldn't you agree?
Exactly. Yeah, he made it sort of epic. Yeah, with the visuals and the style that he shot it in, and Yes, he was at first going to produce it, and he went through like 3 other directors before that, and felt like they never really cut it. Like one of them said they should be sexier or something, and that put him off all the time. That he felt like they really weren't understanding the story, and he said, "No, I'm just going to direct it myself because I know." When he was selling it to other directors, he realized, I get this story, so I'm going to direct it myself.
And also Alan Ladd Jr., who was the producer, gave him final cut and allowed him to express his vision completely, which just doesn't happen, even, especially now where everything's done by committee. But even in those days, even a director who was a very successful director never got final cut. And I think one of the reasons the movie is so strong is because he could really do what he wanted to do in a way that nobody else could have.
It's incredible. Now, this film went on to win Best Screenplay. Callie Corey won the Oscar that year, but you guys are brilliant performers in this film. Let's hear it for them. What did you want to bring to your roles that wasn't necessarily on the page to enhance that script?
I didn't feel like there was something that wasn't.
Well, first of all, we asked Ridley where are they and where are they going, because that wasn't in the script. And I said, we need to figure out what accent to use. And he said, well, just use your accent. And I was like, I'm from New York. This is not the, so we had to decide that. There was no indication of how long they were on the road. And, it seemed like in order for you to go off a cliff thinking that's a good idea, it had to be a lot of time not sleeping and fast. It couldn't be 3 months. It had to be more like 3 weeks. And there were little things like that. There was a lot of dialogue, a lot of dialogue at the end. And we felt that by the end in that car, they had, they already were finishing each other's sentences. So a lot of that dialogue was moved to a car chase. And also I said to him before I said I would do it, I said, am I really going to die, or are you going to test this and then we're going to, have them be in Club Med or something? And he said, you will definitely die. I'm not sure about the other one. You might push her out of the car. But by the end, we'd earned the right to go down together.
That is incredible. Let me ask you this, Susan. It's something that I don't really think about a lot, but in this film, it really caught me. It's like, as actors, you guys have to hit marks, actions, and perform at the same time. In this film, you do a lot of driving. Can you talk about hitting your mark while driving and still performing?
This is a good acting tip. If you're driving and you can't think about acting, it works really well. So I had to, when I was driving, I had to, often the camera would be on a truck that would be on the side, and I had to line up between the line of the rearview mirror or something and Geena in order to get it. So I was always focused on that. And at a certain point I said, can I get out of this car? And I said, could we just have a moment where it's just like a grace note where, I just realized that we're almost to the end, and maybe I take off the watch because of time, and almost like being tripping in the desert, just has this moment where she realizes her mortality, which is a great suggestion, but I didn't realize that it would now take 7 hours to light the desert, and we did it. And that was a scene that wasn't in the script. And she's asleep, and then she comes up, because I just felt so overwhelmed by always being in this car until Geena takes over at some point. But I was doing my own stunts and everything else. So that was something that, and also when I was driving, like some of the stunts, the stunt person did them, but then I did them with the camera right in front of me, so I couldn't see what I was doing. Which was not right, really. I guess I would have, yeah. So we learned to drive very well. We had driving lessons, shooting lessons. Didn't you have to pick up a hat when I was
Yes.
driving? So we had to practice that kind of stuff.
I don't even know if you know this, that for the scene where we're driving toward the cliff, we're right at the cliff, and Ridley says, I'm going to hold the camera with that. And we need a stunt driver to drive it, but I want you to turn so I can see that it's really you. And we're really driving toward it. And I'm like, do you have a rope tied to the end of the car or something? This doesn't seem safe. He said, well, I'll go with you if you go over. So,
We also had the time when the truck was getting blown up and they cleared everybody on the set 2 miles away, and we were still there. And the camera wasn't even on our faces, it was behind us. And I said, I have children, really, everybody's gone. It's like, you've cleared the set for this explosion, except for us, and the camera's not even seeing our faces. So, he put the camera in front of us. And blew up the truck, which I think he'd been waiting to do the entire movie, actually.
I mean, it's a pretty iconic explosion, and a practical one as well.
You should have been there.
I can imagine. I can imagine. Now, a lot of the guys in this film are not the best. From Thelma's husband to JD, played by a young Brad Pitt, none of the guys are really great. Can you talk about how your characters view, from their perspective, view those men in the film?
well, some people took exception to the movie, said it's a male bashing or something, but first of all, there was like 7 guys in it, and they had there was Harvey Keitel's character was very virtuous. They had covered the gamut all the way to a rapist, but I mean, sure, Brad Pitt's character steals our money, but it's kind of,
You had to come
worth
out.
it. I'd pay $6,000 for that.
Geena, speaking of Brad Pitt, I mean, he really makes his film debut here, and he's so charismatic. Did you realize or think that he was going to go on to have the career that he did?
Yeah, I did.
You got much closer than I did. I think when I saw the improvisation that he added, when I saw the film later, when he's challenging the husband and kind of taunting him, I thought, oh, this is more than just a pretty face. He definitely had some capabilities in terms of adding to that little character, which could have just been this gorgeous, guy. I thought that he was pretty interesting, really. Yeah.
I can tell he was a really good actor.
When I agreed to do it, I said I don't want to make a revenge film. I think that for me to play it, I think she's trying to figure out why guys think this kind of behavior is cool. Don't they have, we added a line about mothers and daughters that I say to him before I blow up the truck. And so it was important to have those men be who they were, because she's trying to understand, why would a guy make that ugly face out of a truck and then he thinks that that's gonna be good for us, or why the entitlement of the guy, the rape scene, how do we do that? Why does that seem okay? So the whole, for me, when they blow up the truck or when she shoots the guy, contrary to the instructions in the script, I didn't feel it was like celebrating and this is so great and it was really intentional. I felt that really her quest was just to understand, which was different than, an Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of character or something. And I still feel that way about revenge films.
Absolutely. Well, look, if you guys have questions for Geena or Susan, we have a microphone right here, right in the middle there. You can line on up, and we'll take your questions. Superman, what do you got for us, buddy?
A question for Geena. So you were in a little movie called Jeff Goldblum called Fly. And my question is, I don't know why you guys were nominated for Academy Awards, at least just
Yeah, we really believed that he was going to get nominated. There was a lot of press about that he would be the first person from a man from a horror movie in like 40 years or something who would potentially get. But that was an incredible performance. I agree. He really should have. And
How did David direct you guys to get the performances out? And I heard there was also something with the shirt on the last scene. You had something on your shirt and said, "No, change it," or something. There's something with your wardrobe that had to be changed in the last scene of the film.
in the last scene of the film.
Yes, the last scene of the final scene where you're back at the laboratory.
Oh, I don't remember that about that costume.
Well, I guess how did Cronenberg direct you guys to get the performances out last
Oh, well, we were an item already then, and David Cronenberg was a little worried about that what if they break up while we're filming or something, but there was no way that was going to happen, and we just lived and breathed that movie, 24/7. We were working on it and talking about it and preparing together to shoot this movie, so I think that might have something to do with it, was how passionately involved that the two of us became.
Awesome.
Can I just say that getting a nomination is, how can I put this? There needs to be campaign finance reform. There are so many performances that really should be recognized that aren't, just because the machine isn't behind them. You have to have money 9 months ahead to reserve the screening rooms, which are very important at that time, to get screeners out, which are very expensive. And so the chances, without that, are really, really small, because it's just not organized that way. Now people go on press tours for like a year to get a nomination. And so that's an example of performance that should be recognized, and sometimes they just, fall through the cracks, which is why when you win one, you also know humbly that you were lucky that it happened, because there are so many other people equally deserving to be recognized.
Well said, Susan. Thank you. Hello, how are you?
Thank you. Well, thank you ladies both for being here. My question is for Geena, and it involves a film that you did called A League of Their Own. My family has ties to the All-American Girls Baseball League. My great aunt was a pitcher for the Kenosha Comets the very first year. So that movie was very important to our family, so thank you. My question involves a scene where Dottie and Kit first walk into the stadium for tryouts with Madonna and Rosie O'Donnell, and there's that back and forth, and then Rosie throws the baseball at you, and I watched that in slow motion trying to see if you actually caught it, if it was movie magic, how it was pieced together. So I was just kind of curious, because that's one of my favorite scenes in the film.
Yeah, there's no cutting or special effect with that. However, I will reveal it was a squishy ball. So the sound of it going whack into my hand was added. and Penny said, be really careful not to squish the ball, because that will give it away. So, I catch it like that, bring it up on my head, and be careful not to squeeze it to give it away. Oh, but nevertheless, it was all real.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi, my name is Luke Berryhill, and I got a question for Geena. I played Mr. Little, and what was it like for you playing Mrs. Little and Stuart Little?
It was really awesome. I loved the script. I was so happy they thought of me, and I decided it was because I already had pretty significant interspecies acting relation with a fly as a background, and Beetlejuice, and Earth Girls Are Easy. I had a lot of interspecies stuff already experienced. So working with an invisible mouse was on a par with those movies.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hello, how are you? Oh, we're good?
Hi, first of all, you're both fabulous, and don't look at David before you help gorgeous. But my question is for both of you. Considering what you spoke about, the so-called feminist aspect of Thelma Louise, and you were both nominated for lead actress at the Oscars, what did it feel like when you were kind of pitted against each other? And also, what was the experience like when you both won your respective Oscar? And specifically for Susan, what was it like when you won being directed by your partner at the time?
Great question.
So many questions. I don't think I realized at the time how unusual it is for the two of us to be nominated for lead. Because as you notice, they usually, if there's more than, you can have equal parts, they always put somebody into the supporting category, which is in a way an easier category to get into, which is kind of a shame because there are people that are supporting that don't get into that category because somebody in a bigger part got it. But so I don't know, we did everything together. I didn't really think about it in terms of beating each other out. I kind of figured we'd split the vote or something anyway, which who won that year? I don't even remember. Jodie Foster. So, who was great. So I think we were just happy to be going around. Was I pregnant when we were doing all of that? I was so pregnant too. I was working on that. So, and Geena, when we went to the Academy Awards, I had a great dress, you know, that was designed and over my belly and then kind of tight. But when you have to pee, you can't get the bottom of that dress up over your belly. So Geena had to go to the bathroom with me and undress me so that I could get out of the dress so that I could pee, which if you've never been pregnant, obviously, but that happens. So thank God she didn't be so competitive that she wouldn't help me get into my dress.
You guys really did do everything together, that's why.
Yes.
Incredible. You know, I do have a question about Thelma Louise real quick. Is that iconic kissing, was that in the script? It was not in the script.
No, I asked Ridley if I could do it, and by the time we got to that, there was only like one take. Because of course they spent all the time on the helicopters and the cars and everything, and then it was magic hour and there was going to be like one take, so I said I would like to do that, because why not?
Incredible. Thank you so much. Hello.
Hi, how you guys doing? Sorry. I just want to say I love Thelma Louise. It's my favorite best friend movie of all time. My question is for Geena Davis. I really want to know if the character, or how you take it, if she dropped the ball intentionally for her sister, or was it really an accident, like you made a mistake and dropped it?
Well, for 30 years, I've never given my opinion on this, but I will say now, I'm still not going to tell you. I mean, why would I give that? It's so much fun that people fight about it all the time. You know, yeah, Lori Petty would say, "Of course, I didn't drop it on purpose. I had the skill to beat her and whatever." But I'm never going to say.
Hello, Robin, how are you?
Hello, fair citizens of Gotham. Ladies, I think you both would make truly terrific villains in a Batman movie, I just want to say that. But also, Geena, I'm curious about The Long Kiss Goodnight, my favorite Christmas movie. There's a scene on the Canadian border where you or a stunt woman is way up high in the air on some Christmas decorations. Did you film that, and how high up in the air were you?
Yeah, I filmed it. I did all my stunts pretty much in that movie because the director was my husband. It was crazy. I was thinking I should write a book called "You Married Him," because I would say to the assistant director all the time, "He's going to have me do that stunt." He said, "You married him." I don't know what's going on. But it was probably as high as this ceiling that I went shooting up on a thing, and yeah, but that was very cool. That was
And before children, you don't think
and no,
the same way as once you have children. Then you start to be much more careful.
Yeah,
Gina, did you grab the gun when he was hot?
it wasn't hot when I grabbed it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Susan,
concern.
he brings up a good point though about the villain thing, because you did play a villain, Victoria Cord and Blue Beetle. Can you talk about that experience for a little bit?
I played a few really horrible people, and it's really fun. I mean, it's so much more fun than saying, "I'm so sorry, let us pray," you know. When you're a villain, especially a villain who feels passionately about doing something horrible, it's much better to play Captain Hook than Peter Pan. I mean, those guys that have to play those good guys, you know, it's very hard not to be boring doing that. But when you play an evil character, it's so much fun.
And Enchanted does.
Enchanted, she was good at that too. Yes. Yeah, and a lot of very bad mothers too. I played a number, balanced out by Marnie, but still, you know, some really irresponsible, trying maybe, but awful mothers.
Hello, how are you?
Ms. Sarandon, I'm just glad for this opportunity to say thank you for your activism, thank you for your fighting spirit, and when the status quo is against you, you are the voice for the justice, so thank you.
I can't tell you how much that means to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, that was hard to follow, but Susan, or should I say Janet, my name is Brett, wait for it, Weiss, and when I was in high school, we went to go see the Rocky Horror Picture Show almost every weekend, and you were a big reason why. Loved the film, loved the music. What I want to know is, if you don't mind answering, was there a part of making that film that just you really hated and you found uncomfortable? And was there part of making that film that you absolutely loved and you really found gratifying?
Thanks for that question. I got in that movie because friends of mine were in the play, and I became friends with Tim Curry, and he was in town, and I went by to say hello, and they said, "Oh my God, why don't you read for this?" I was already supposed to do a different movie, and I said, "Well, I can't sing," and they said, "Well, can you sing Happy Birthday?" Anyway, you see where this is going. So when I got over there, I was the only, you know, Barry and I were the only two that hadn't been in the play, and I was the only one that had done a movie. And the director was a new director, and the budget was like $1 million. Like seriously, $1 million. And so it was freezing in England. The studio had no heat, and we were running around in underwear, and that was the good news because then we got wet, and we were wet. So to make a long story short, I got pneumonia, and had worked with pneumonia because the doctor said, well, if you put her into a hot tub every like hour, like they didn't even have heat, weren't going to have a hot tub. So they got some screens and they put a heater in the screens and that caught on fire. Luckily not burning anybody that was in there because of course all of us were in there then. So it was fun. I mean, when I see it, I think I had more fun than I actually did because I was struggling, physically because of having pneumonia. But I continued a friendship with those guys, and then the film was never really released. And then it became this thing which I'm so proud of because I think the message of the movie is so important and has meant so much to people. And when I have started doing Comic-Cons, one of the things that just thrills me to death is that I get to talk to people who have different relationships with different work that I've done, and you never get to know that. You know, as far as you know, people tell you if it's successful or if not successful based on how much money it makes or whatever. But now when I'm here at something like this, I can talk to so many people, and the Rocky Horror Show definitely comes up a lot. And a lot of the fan mail that I've gotten a few letters back in the day that said, from somebody like in the middle of America, that said, the Rocky Horror Show really made me feel free, but Thelma Louise helped me get out of town. So, you never know. That's why I think when you make film, you have to be so careful about the projects that you choose, because they either reinforce the status quo or challenge it. And they don't have to be all serious dead man walking things. Just like the Rocky Horror Show, the Nutty Professor, there's a number of comedies that really challenge the narrative and have you root for somebody you don't expect to root for instance, or anything that encourages a person to be the protagonist in their own life, I think is for me. And the Rocky Horror Show, Don't Dream It, Be It, can't get much clearer than that.
Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate it. And if I ever see you at Expo again, let's discuss that scene in Atlantic City and lemon juice. Thank you so much.
It's a deal.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, hi, I'm Janet.
Yeah.
So my question is for you, Susan. I love your performance in The Hunger, and I was wondering if you would ever be interested in doing another like artsy vampire film in the future, maybe?
Sure. I mean, I think what was interesting for me initially was this idea of, do you want to live forever and be addicted, if it means being addicted. But I think there's a lot of really interesting themes and questions that revolve around horror films. There's one that I just saw. I was a judge in Italy, and a film that just has come out. Oh God, I'm not sure. Something about how to carry the dead, and it's really about. It was done by a young woman who actually won the festival, and it's a zombie film, but it's more than that. It's about grieving, and it's just a very, very interesting film. So yeah, if a script is something I haven't done before, and it moves me, and there's some fun people involved, I'm always open.
Awesome.
You're welcome.
Hi.
First, I just want to say, like, my mom and me, we really love Thelma Louise, so it's a pleasure to meet you guys. My question is, during y'all's time together as friends, did you guys ever reflect back on Thelma Louise's friendship and compare it to y'all's friendships now?
Interesting question.
I don't know that I ever thought about what's the difference between their friendship and our. I think it's kind of similar. Where Thelma worships Louise, and I worship you.
Well, I mean, there's, no car, no guns, no guys. So, I mean,
That's true.
we don't have that kind of pressure.
That's true.
But and I'm a New Yorker, and Geena lives in LA, so we don't hang as often as I would like. Are you crying? I'm so sorry. It's okay. Come here. Come here.
This is what Winning Expo's all about, guys. Here we go.
That's the end of your question.
I think we have time for maybe one more, so no pressure.
Well, my question's kind of controversial, but I want to say, Gina did this answer. I love Thelma Louise. What actually got me started with Thelma Louise is when I saw like the urban spinoff, The Queen and Slim. If anybody has seen that, it's kind of based on y'all's story. I think you guys should watch it. But I do
Sorry,
have
what did you?
Queen and Slim. Queen and Slim.
Queen and
It's
Slim.
kind of like the Thelma and Louise, just with black people. Yeah. So my question is controversial, but I know that back then, Thelma Louise was very controversial. There was a lot of backlash, but a lot of things that people love. Do you think that it would have got the response if it were two black leads, black women that were leads?
I don't think that would.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It would have been even more controversial, and it would have, especially at that time. I don't even know now if you could get away with that because there's just so many stereotypes that you'd have to fight through. You know, I don't think at that time. What do you think?
I don't think so. If I can remember even me just being young back in the early 90s, like having to navigate who I am with my skin tone and my accent and things of that nature, I don't think so, but that's why I appreciate the film Queen and Slim. I recommend everybody to watch it.
That's a great film.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it inspired me. I watched that first before I watched Thelma Louise, but it's so many different topics I can go through. We don't have time, but I wouldn't think that if it was two black women that were leads, it would have got the reception.
I think as Geena said earlier, just two women having the option of violence at that time, just even if people didn't articulate that it definitely, that was a lot of it, you know, and two black women, how powerful would that have been, you know? That would have been really scary for some people, I'm sure.
Thank you so much. Look, yeah, you know what? Let's do one more. There you go. I think we've been waiting a while.
Thank you, I appreciate that. This is for Miss Vegas. I'm sorry, Miss Sarandon. It's for you.
It's Gordy Weaver because a lot of people kept making me
I can see that. So this is from the client. There's a scene where your client, the young man, is talking to you. And he's trying to get into your psyche and ask you about, he's trying to get you, you know, why are you so bad? You know, you're an alcoholic and stuff like that. You say, don't you miss your children? And then that one phrase where you say, almost every day. And there's not much in that, but there's so much in that. So where do you go to get to that kind of emotion in your child?
You just imagine that situation, and it's not that complicated. But what's interesting about that, I ran into a number of people who told me they went into AA after that movie, and that would have been the last thing that I expected that movie to accomplish. And again, that's an example of you just have no idea, you know, what part of something that you do is going to resonate with somebody when you do a film. You just have no idea. And that kid was really special. I really miss him. That was a sad, sad thing that happened to him, Brad. And yeah, that was a fabulous, fun time though in Memphis, I have to say. I had a great time doing that one. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. One more? Just one more? Just one more. We're gonna have to do one more.
Okay, first of all, you guys are iconic. Stepmom holds very close in my heart. I can't watch it without crying, but we get it, yeah. But my friend,
I want you to know that those two kids are still in my life. And Liam looks exactly the same except stretched out.
of course, yeah.
They're relative.
You were
Really
so good
great.
at that. You're so good at that.
I'm very proud that I produced that.
How do you know that?
Yeah.
Amazing.
And it was a very interesting
And Julia
experience.
Roberts.
And Julia was fantastic.
So good. But my best friend had a question for you. She didn't want to wait in line. So,
You are a good friend.
I know. Just like you do. So, have you ever been these callbacks? Because we go frequently.
I took Natalie Portman, Thora Bircham, my daughter, when I was doing Anywhere But Here because they wanted to come. And at that time, the shadow cast, they knew that we were coming. And at that time, the shadow cast was, that was performing, their parents had met doing the Rocky Horror Show. So that was weird. I took Molly Ringwald before we did The Tempest and Nureyev in New York, so that was at the very beginning. And I since have taken a friend of mine's daughter who, when she's 12, and when she got there, her mom did not come. She came with me and with my assistant and a couple other people. And when she got there, she took her tights off. She had a tiny little skirt. She had fishnets on. And she like completely transformed herself. And they knew that I was coming, so they had everybody that played all the parts. So there were like 5 Janets. There were, and they each took turns doing it. This was recently just in New York. So yeah, it's still going. And the thing that was really cool was that there used to be a lot of independent movie theaters. There aren't so many now, but back in the day there were so many that showed foreign films or little films, whatever. And they told me that they managed to keep their doors open because they knew they would sell out Friday and Saturday night. So I was very proud of that. Worked for a while.
What's your favorite callback? Damn it, June.
Right now I have to tell you that I think you need more discipline in your callbacks. Because when I was there, people were shouting out all over the place, and it wasn't, it used to seem almost like church. Yeah. But I think you need to kind of get everybody on the same page. It's gotten a little loose. People are improvising into the next one, so you can't hear the dialogue on the screen. So you could pass that along. I saw actually when I was working in Savannah, there was a brunch where they were actually singing in a little tiny space. I don't know how they did it. They actually were performing, and they were pretty good. Megan and I went to see it snuck in, like I think it was Pride Week or something, and went to see it, and that was amazing. It holds up. There's a documentary that's coming out that Richard O'Brien's son did that has a lot of really. I haven't seen it, but I know I was in it. Yeah. But you might keep an eye open for that. And anybody who's going to be in London in August, the whole cast is getting together. Hopefully Tim will be there too. So I got a chance to see Nell, who I haven't seen in a very long time. I've seen Pat and obviously Tim and Barry, so that would be really nice.
Incredible. Well,
Thank you so much for everything.
All right, I think that actually we're going to do it there. Geena, Susan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you all.
You guys are